Ladies and gentlemen, everyone around and in between, it is Debate Sensei CEDA Edition. We talk about things relevant to the Cross-Examination Debate Association. I have with me my resident expert, Director of Debate from California State University, Long Beach, Deven Cooper. Thank you so much, Deven, for being here.
Thank you.
I rarely introduce myself. I probably should. I'm Jared Kubicka-Miller. I am a professor of communications and a debate coach, relative enthusiast. Thought I'd talk about these issues. And what we wanted to talk about in this episode is debate over winter break. Namely, how does preparation and practice change over the winter break? The way most universities are still set up is on a semester system, but even on a quarter system, there's usually a break over winter, and that affects the approach that people take to debate and might affect the preparation. And I thought we'd have a nice in-depth discussion about that. So in that respect, what are some pieces of advice that you give, like with some parting words before you for the winter break that you typically send to your debaters year over year?
Well, I typically warn them first off that if you do no work over the winter break, you're going to be severely behind when people have all these new arguments and new articulations of the topic, as well as different changes. Because this year particularly, we have a new administration coming in that might change the trajectory of the topic. The other thing too is that climate change actions have been shifting and moving around the world, especially after the COP29 UN meeting about climate, that when they discuss climate change and funding for that. And so I think that that's the main thing, is that if you want to be competitive in the year coming up, you have to literally look at how the topic is changing in real life, as well as where it could possibly change after the semester when we have a new president. So
right, yeah, especially every 4 years, probably even more so than even during the intermittent elections that you have. The presidential elections seem to be pretty substantial when it comes to things like that, but specifically when we're having a decarbonization topic and such a wild swing from one ideology to the other as far as leadership is considered. So mainly, you can't just be resting on laurels, right? That the best of the best, they're not quitting, they're not taking a break if you want to stay the best.
Or I mean, I feel like it depends on the team that you're on, because in a lot of ways there is teams that will just have their coaches just constantly researching and cutting cards over the break, and they just give a file to their student.
Okay.
But some other teams have to actually invest in having their students look at what's going on with the topic and how it's changing. And I think particularly for us, I'm finding articles and I'm posting them inside of our Dropbox, praying that our students will cut them. And I might cut some myself, particularly if we get an invite to one of the round robins. But it's just you have to make sure that you are knowledgeable about the stuff, because even if you're handed a file by your coach, you still need to know what that file says.
Yeah. So in general, there's no rest, but how does preparation, I will kind of broaden that out even more. So how does preparation change? What does it feel like that might be different from a normal, semester setting?
Well, technically you have a lot more free time to do the research, because you don't have classes unless you are taking a winter session for some reason. But I think that you have a lot more time to kind of chill and hang out and do stuff. But that's the problem, is that a lot of people get caught up in the chill and hang out, and they don't end up doing any work, and that's the problem. And I think also sometimes people get really caught up with their families and
Hmm.
travel and all of that, that they kind of forget about what needs to be done. But I feel like that's not everybody. I
Okay.
feel like it's a lot of students in general. But I think debaters that really want to like have the cutting edge and to really be successful in the following semester, they will definitely invest in doing the work because they don't, it's like a bunch of uninhibited time unless
Yeah.
you have to work like a job, but like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people might be doing travel, which might hurt that planning ability for like get-togethers and things like that. But
Mhm.
um, do you think that there's a lot more like online? You think people have to rely more about online communication, or you still think that like the face-to-face is something that's happened more over the winter?
Yeah, I think it is like a lot of like Zooming stuff and,
Hmm.
and like phone calls and like meetups that they do because like not everybody's in town
Right.
during the break. So you have like the email chains, the Google Docs, and all that good stuff. But I think largely people are just like processing evidence on their Dropbox and just like putting stuff on there and figuring out what to do next with it.
Hmm.
But like, if you're going into the next semester, like you gotta have at least one new affirmative and a different spin on negative arguments that you've been running.
Okay.
'Cause- yeah.
So if you're like drawing up new strategies, new apps, maybe even new neg strats, does that mean that you're like doing less rounds? You think that less practice rounds are happening? Like I'm thinking that you might
Mm,
not really get that great of a return if it's not fully developed, and if you're developing something new, you're just practicing something old, right? Is it like less practice rounds?
I don't know about, I mean, because people can practice around, do stuff on Zoom now.
Yeah.
So I think that that could be a thing, but oftentimes I feel like the cheaper way that people kind of do the practicing of rounds and stuff is just by like going through drills where you give them an argument and they have to answer it,
Mm.
right? As opposed to doing a full fleshed out round.
Hmm.
So I think that a lot of that and a lot of redos could be a thing that people are doing as well. When they're redoing a speech that they have lost on or something that they think could possibly be a future argument that people are going to make, they're going to like, you know, run around like that, or more so, it's kind of like a simulation of what they might say.
Okay.
So
Do you think the literature that they are accessing is different? I mean, if you got more time and there's less tournaments, does that mean that like maybe it's a better time for you to like read a full published book on the issue rather than just a single journal article?
see, I kind of feel like now a lot of students are not reading books
Oh,
fully. Like I feel like they might do it over the summer. Uh,
okay,
but over the break or during a semester, it's rare that they do that,
okay.
I feel like it's really rare that that happens. And it's sad that that doesn't happen, but like that's kind of like how debate has become, I think, very microwavable. Is that
Oh,
like you just get stuff and you just like copy and paste and do
hmm.
the stuff, that you do. But I don't know. It's unfortunate, but it's kind of how it ends up.
I mean, you think that like they find all the books over the summer and then like because I'm thinking there might not be too many new full published books that are coming out during the season about your topic. But
Well, sometimes there is. I mean,
yeah.
and there's also some books that are still in like pending,
Hmm.
right? But some of the authors will release some of the chapters.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that that has happened this year at least, and um, you know, but like I just kind of think that people might look at books, right? But what happens is that they are going to look at those books to just cut cards, not to like really get those books to digest the information that is
Okay.
happening, because that's kind of like the quickest way to do it.
Yeah.
Is yeah, to just get the book and skim it and cut the things that you think are necessary.
It would seem like such a good opportunity to really just, pace yourself and really absorb like a broader understanding rather than trying to check off some boxes for your next tournament, right? Um,
In theory, yes,
uh,
but are people really doing that? I don't know. I don't think so.
well, we're
Um,
talking that, we're talking that there's not too many tournaments. When is the next major tournament, would you say, that most people are aware of?
Georgetown.
Georgetown, when's that?
That is going to be the first weekend in January.
Oh, that ain't too far.
It's not.
No, it's not at all. Okay, it's not much of a
Yeah,
break then.
no.
Seems like, so CEDA seems to probably have less of a break than other debate formats. I'm talking to like NFALD, and I think they're more than a month away to the next tournament.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Is that a big tournament? Is it a big turnout at that one?
Yeah, Georgetown is a big one.
Okay.
It's one of the majors. So you have like Harvard, Kentucky, Northwestern, Georgetown, Texas.
Okay. Okay.
Those are the big ones.
And because of the winter break happening right up until Georgetown, are you expecting a lot of new stuff to see at this tournament? Oh,
Yeah,
it's
because there's some stuff that people did not break at Wake.
okay.
There's also new stuff that people are just cooking up right now because Trump is president or going to become president by time. Well, Georgetown, by
Yeah.
the end of Georgetown is when Trump will actually be in, office or whatever.
20th would be the when he takes over, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so Georgetown will just be when he like what is that January 6th time?
Yeah.
Um
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Oh man.
but
But
so I
yeah.
think the actual tournament that is going to come into play during Trump's time is one of the swing tournament. I mean, sorry, one of the round robin tournaments, because
Okay.
there's the Brick City round robin, or that which is at Rutgers University in Newark, New Jersey, or there is the what do you call it, the Dartmouth round robin. Why am I blanking? Silly. The Dartmouth round robin.
End of the semester, man. Like we're thinking
Yeah.
finals, getting these classes done, and yeah.
Yeah. So those are two round robins that people who are going to be hopefuls for those are going to be prepping for that, I would think. But there's some people that are just kind of like just relaxing in some
Oh really?
ways.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's just like if you're not going one of those swings, like you can start prepping for your next stuff like a little bit later.
Yeah, somebody who's not going to Georgetown, they might be able to pace themselves even more,
Yeah,
right?
because there's other smaller tournaments that happen in between that, like local regional tournaments.
Okay.
But the majors in the second semester are the three national tournaments, like the ADA, CEDA, NDT, and then the regular is like Texas and Georgetown.
Okay.
So
I think I asked this last time, but are there any type of like camps or cooperatives that happen over breaks like this, or is that only over the summer?
it's usually in the summer, and even the ones that are in the summer are like far and few. I
Really?
think ADI is one that we really want to come back in full throttle the way it used to be. I'm not sure that it will, but it will be a good idea for it to. But I don't know. I'm not in charge of Arizona's debate program. So it's kind of up to them if they want to
Yeah.
do that. But I feel like there was some talk of reinvigorating, like just having some type of summer camp thing. I think it was at NCA. I
Oh,
was at a panel that was about um, what will the 100th year of the NDT look like?
oh, when is that?
It's far, far. I'll be like 60.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, because we're only at this. Last year was the 78th,
Okay. Okay.
so we got some years, like 20, 20, 22 years. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right.
But I mean, who knows? And so a lot of people feel like that is kind of an issue that might be around the corner, that we don't know how the community will look in 100 years if we keep going at the pace that we are, like having a lot of our competition just center around like 6 major tournaments, and the regional tournaments are just dispersed around.
Right.
And like District 1, which is what we're in, like losing a lot of participation in terms of like schools,
Right.
because at this point we technically only have like us, kind of CSUN, we got Fullerton, we have Southwestern College, Arizona State, Berkeley, USC, and some teams at Stanford.
Okay.
Which it might seem like that's like quite a bit of schools, but not, those schools don't all have like 5 and 6 teams,
Right. 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 I was
So,
thinking about the Emory's and the Michigans and stuff
yeah,
like that. They're always
we
bringing out.
don't.
Yeah.
I feel like on this side of the West Coast, like I feel like Fullerton would probably have like maybe 4 or 5 teams. Like we would have like 3.
Mm-hmm.
Berkeley might have like 4. USC might have 4. So,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not always going at the same tournaments all together all the time.
But
Like
you talk
Emory.
about these larger teams, and especially with the larger coaching staff. You said that like a lot of the prep is happening by them. Is there any sort of networking within like these smaller schools to help sort of compensate for that at all?
Not
No. Oh
necessarily.
man.
I mean, I know that we don't really do that. Like I feel like like my students either like they cut their own arguments before they go networking with somebody else about
Right. Right.
stuff. But I know that they probably like share articles maybe, and stuff like that. But I don't think that, like, we're not working in like kind of a like consortium kind of way to like help each other. I mean, maybe that should be a thing, but at the end of the day, there's still like somebody that you have the potential to face, and like
Yeah. I mean, and like it also wonder how the coaching would work for that, because if you're like sharing enough evidence and you're and stuff like that, and you have to code off each other when it comes time to judging, that might make things a little difficult. Oh, that's rough.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Wasn't there? I think we talked about this last time. Wasn't there a tournament out in Long Beach that was always after the New Year's?
There was. It was
Yeah.
called Winter at the Beach.
Yeah.
And so like we kind of like paused on that for a little bit, like particularly after the pandemic and all and stuff. But like I think next year we're going to bring that tournament back in like late February.
Oh, late February.
Because somebody like asked me about it when I was at CSUN, and I was like, oh yeah, we haven't hosted that in a long time, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we might bring that back in February for people to have as an option. But we'll see. But I mean, I hope it makes like,
Yeah.
a lot of people come out and stuff, because hosting tournaments is like pretty easy for us to do. And we probably have the best facilities for hosting tournaments, but like, I'd rather not like host a tournament if like only like, a few schools are going to show up, so.
Yeah. I mean, is that a good spot for a regional tournament to be happening? Yeah.
Yeah, because I kind of actually talked to people on the PSCFA. Did I say that right? I think I did
Yeah.
this time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah! I never do. And so I just got to get the tournament on the calendar for next year,
Okay.
and then people will see it and hopefully come.
Yeah. I mean, like if you're doing more than just CEDA, I'm sure that would be a draw for sure.
Well, yeah, because we're gonna do policy debate, parley,
Ah.
speech, and I think that's it. I mean,
Okay.
maybe IPDA, maybe
Yeah.
like
It's a
on a
pretty big draw.
Friday.
Yeah.
Like I feel like we might just do it on Friday. I mean, because I remember the last time that we did it, I feel like it was good. Like it was a good turnout for IPDA. There was like, and this one I'm talking. This is probably like 2019.
Yeah. I
Like
mean, yeah.
yeah, it was a good turnout, and like we had quite a bit of parley schools that came, but like like the pandemic happened, and it was
Yeah.
just like it was just uncertain about like what stuff was gonna look like and all of that. So
Right.
yeah,
Right.
but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it.
All right. All
I
right.
put in a. I'm gonna put in the application for getting the rooms so that can be an option for people, and I'm gonna put on a PSCFA calendar, and like we have a parley team, so we can enter our own parley kids inside of it, and policy teams are gonna go in there, IPDA. So yeah.
All right. So 2026.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
As
All
well,
right.
because coming up, like we have to host the NDT
Oh, right.
qualifier. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and that's the same weekend as spring champs.
Oh.
So I would, because at first I was like, oh, we're gonna make this and we can turn it into a tournament that other people can come to, but like it's the same weekend as spring champs and nobody's gonna come.
Yeah. 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 I mean, like, NDT qualifier is a pretty big draw.
Well, it'll be everybody in the district that did not get a first round.
Okay. Okay.
Which I feel like only one team would be in contention of getting a first round this year, which is us.
Okay.
So
Okay. Yeah. So that's another thing about over winter. Aren't there some sort of polls and voting or anything that happens over winter?
yes, I
Yeah.
think there's usually like a coaches poll or like a AI generated thing.
Huh.
Yeah, it's like I feel like it's like someone runs the algorithm for the teams and then like they make it come out to be like who they think will be the top team or
Oh.
top teams based on the record so far
Okay.
and who would possibly be first rounds, things like that.
Okay.
But I
Okay.
don't know when that comes out though. I feel like that should have been out already. But yeah.
It would seem like the winter break would be a really good time to do that. I mean, like there's a bit of
Well,
a lull in
I would
activity.
think like after Wake Forest, because Wake is, the ultimate kind of like decider of like who is where they are after that tournament because there's no other tournaments. So maybe it might come out soon.
Okay. Okay. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's one thing to look for. Um,
Yeah.
Winter also seems like a time to sort of reevaluate your goals and sort of reset and what thinking you're capable of and things like that. Is that any type of approach that you take with your students?
Yes, because because you got to reevaluate where you're going to be ranked,
Right.
and like if you haven't been in like quarters of above at
Mm,
tournaments, you're more than likely not going to be in the top 5 or
mm.
top 6. So you got to figure out how do you stay within that range of being a first round, so you have to compete at the district tournament come that time.
Okay.
But a lot of other people are really trying to put their hat in the race for getting a first round because we've had teams that have had very interesting runs so far, but like someone will have a really good run at a tournament and then like not break at another tournament. And it's like, I don't know. So like, for example, I think there's a team that got to quarters at Northwestern, but they didn't even break at Kentucky. So it's just like, I mean, that's good, but it's like a whole bunch of like fluctuating things like that.
Okay.
So it's much better to just like break at a tournament as opposed to not break at all. Yeah. So even though like for us, we've had 3 doubles performances and 1 quarters, at least that is we didn't like not break at a tournament.
So. Yeah, it's a level of consistency, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And the seeding was pretty good too. I think that's something.
Yeah, like the seeding, like, but see, for me, I don't really know how people take into concept the seeding or the prelim records. I mean, I would hope they do, because I mean, we've had pretty good prelim records. It's just that the elims have been a little shaky. But yeah.
I mean, if it were me, I mean, because single elimination tournaments, there's a little bit of randomness to it that, like, when you have 8 rounds, it kind of reduces that randomness. It should at least be considered, you know what I mean? Not everyone should be considered equally.
And like this year, it has been random with a lot of people. There have been teams that are just like kind of unranked, and they've been beating teams that were like in, Copeland panel. Running, and it's just like, So,
where does the Copeland panel? Is there any development that happens over winter break with that?
No, it's just like it's like whoever were the teams that were in high places in the first semester, they're kind of like, I think one team that's really set, like 2 teams that are really set right now when it comes to the Copeland race are Kansas RS and Emory GH. They're just like solidified. They're like either 1 or 2. And then like there's other teams that have been fairly up there with them. And I think if you won a tournament, you definitely have like a spot. And I think Binghamton, since they won Wake, that kind of really solidifies them in like the top 5, because winning a tournament is like major.
Okay. So it seems like the strategy over winter break is a time. It's almost like a period of reset, whereas like bring out some new stuff, sort of rethink your goals, and it's a really good midpoint for the season for you to sort of take a second look at what you're going for.
Yeah, but it's also a very dire time for you to readjust what was not working in first year.
Right.
Because if
getting rid of some stuff.
Because if you're only pulling out like low elimination performances, you gotta like step it up if you want to be ranked. So perceptually, say for instance a Cal State Long Beach. If we were to win Georgetown or Texas, that would be astronomically good for our record. But
do you think something like that, like a situation where you're consistently breaking, but you're having a tough time in elimination rounds, does that require a major revision over winter, or more of a like, okay, we have to just
I mean, it depends on the perception of the debaters and the coaches. And I think that like sometimes it's not always a major revision that needs to occur. It's more so that the students need to have more focus when they're preparing for stuff and when they're about to have the elimination round, and also to try to be consistent and not forget the arguments that they have always gone for, and like things that have been typical pattern. And so I think a lot of times what people sometimes try to do is they like to change what they've been doing that has been getting them to win. And that doesn't always work because you're trying something new. Like if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
And I think that sometimes people want to go for arguments that they think that I'm really winning this. And it's like, oftentimes a lot of people tell people to go for the the road or the path of least resistance.
Right.
And it's like sometimes that path of least resistance is not the best path, even if it seems to be easy, because you never know what the judge is thinking or how the judge perceives this argument or how the affirmative or negative is going to spin this argument in their speech or in their final speech. And so you got to just make sure that like you're going with the things that you know well and that you have historically won on and know how to articulate. So I think that's the thing.
Well, the period of a winter break is a time for people to kind of reflect on where they've been and where they're going. Nice little midway point. Thanks for your insights on this. We'll be back talking more about debate in the near future. Thank you.
All right. You're welcome.